Hey, what's up guys? My name is Josh and welcome to the first impressions of the SVS Ultra Towers. Before we jump into this, I want to send a huge thank you to SVS for actually sending these out for me to hold on to for a little bit. I am planning on reviewing them and comparing them to pretty much everything, kind of to use as a kind of frame of reference for higher end speakers, lower end speakers, just to get something that is kind of a baseline, so to speak, or a reference system. So there's actually a whole lot going on with this thing, and right now you're only seeing a very small portion of it. But let's go over kind of the drivers and the configuration that this is in. So these top woofers, the way that they're arranged is in an MTM setup, which is mid-woofer, tweeter, mid-woofer. Now for the tweeter, they're using a 1-inch dome tweeter and 6.5-inch woofers up here. And the crossover for these woofers is about 150 hertz into the lower woofers downstairs. Now this portion of the speaker is actually sealed. It's actually only the woofers that are ported, and it is quite a big port. In fact, this is the port plug for the port on the back. It's huge. It's gigantic. Now when it comes to the bottom of the speaker, there are dual 8-inch woofers per speaker. That's a total of 4 8-inch woofers in a stereo setup. And it sounds incredible for the bass response. It's just awesome. Now in the realm of speakers, you'll hear a lot about a speaker being full range. And what that technically should mean is a speaker that will hit all the way down to 20 hertz and all the way up to 20,000 hertz. That is the spectrum of human hearing. There are speakers that can go above that, all the way to 50,000 or even 100,000, and all the way below that down to like 5 or 10 hertz even for the really crazy stuff. Now, even a system as big as this is not a truly full range system. This actually will only go down, this will only go down to about 28 hertz. So it's about 8 hertz from that bottom technical classification of full range. This is still extraordinarily deep. But if you're one of those people who is gonna want that, those last 8 hertz, then you're going to need a subwoofer, because at the end of the day, SVS is actually kind of more known as a subwoofer company than a loudspeaker company, which, seeing how good their loudspeakers can be, makes me think that the subwoofers must be just unbelievably good. All right, so now let's talk about sound really quick. 3 V words describe this speaker: vivid, vibrant, and visceral. It is a crazy, impactful sound. That is primarily the bass response. The clarity of everything is just off the hook. It's great. It's amazing. The details on both kind of the low end and the top end, top to bottom, this is a very complete speaker in terms of detail retrieval. And I don't think it should be undervalued for that. It's not going to force the details like some other speakers will. Like just comparing against ELAC UB5s. The UB5s are a lot more forward than this speaker is, but this speaker just beats it out in terms of total comparable detail, and that goes for the top end, the mid-range, and the lower end. Also completely different price ranges, but a lot of people are familiar with that speaker, so I'm just drawing a point of comparison here. Vivid and vibrant kind of go hand in hand here. This is a very alive, lively sound. This is not going to be for the people who like a kind of flat, super kind of boring sound signature. This is something that is like really going to be not necessarily incorrectly making the music sound vibrant or anything like that. It's just going to be kind of just really engaging sound. It's going to be very dynamic and very powerful sound that's going to come out of this. And another side note here, I was actually surprised at how efficient these things are. Like, I don't think I've pushed my amplifier over like 40% of its capability, and I have like a 100-watt amplifier. And this thing was able to just take just a fraction of what I could give it and display it loudly, broadly, deeply, and extremely detailed. And kind of a real world comparison here. Do you guys remember the first time that you saw like an OLED 4K TV, and they have those big, perfectly shot like videos that they're displaying on this like beautiful TV that has like the purest blacks, and it just doesn't look like anything else. It just looks so vivid and vibrant, but it doesn't look fake or falsified. It just almost has like all the vibrancy comes from how realistic it looks. That's what listening to the speaker is like. It's like listening to music in 4K. It is a truth teller in that sense. If your track is recorded poorly, you are going to know, and it is going to let you know. If your track is recorded well, you will be greatly rewarded. Heavily rewarded, greatly rewarded, whatever. You will be rewarded. And anything of like a medium recording quality and above is just going to sound fantastic. Now, this is different depending on your preferences though. So like another high-end speaker, which is the Buchart S400s, which is coming at $1,700 a pair, and they're a bookshelf speaker. Those are speakers that kind of lie to you in a sense, and they make just about everything sound really, really good. And depending on kind of what you like when you listen to music, you may like to chill out a little bit, or you may like to be a little bit more analytical, which is what this can offer you. Then, you know, you're going to have different kind of appreciations for different speakers. Now, in closing about the sound, what I find most odd about this speaker is its ability to have that analytical side, but it never feels like it can't relax. Like if you listen to some beautiful, just silky smooth, relaxed recordings, this will display that superbly. And so you can get this kind of chilled out feeling from the speaker if you want to. If you play the right music, you totally can, and it's more than capable of displaying that really well. But it's also capable of, you know, being just this gigantic, huge sound stage, large sound wall coming at you type of sound, if that's what the track is demanding of it. So it's very dexterous in that way. But one notable aspect is that despite how complex the sounds of certain songs can get, I never felt like this was an overly analytical speaker. Like to me, it's got that correct level of analytics where it's like, okay, yes, this is very detailed, but the way that the details are coming at you, it doesn't seem forced. It doesn't seem overly clinical in nature. Now, I'm actually going to compare this to one of my favorite headphones here, which is this Hyphen Aria. What makes this headphone special? If you haven't seen the review, this is probably the best headphone I've ever listened to. There's a few aspects, actually a lot of aspects that make this the best headphone that I personally ever listened to. But one of the reasons why I love it is because it's got like 3 factors that allow it to stand out above everything else I've ever heard. 1, it's exceptionally detailed, but it's not forced. And I love that about it. 2, it's got an overall kind of slightly warmer tilt. It's not completely what I would consider neutral. It's got a slightly warmer, but not too warm tilt to it. And 3 is going to be the bass response. So the bass response I would best describe as holographic. It is there, it is part of the music, but with this headphone, it doesn't really seem like it's coming from the same place that everything else is coming from. It almost seems like it's see-through despite how deep and how low it can go. And 2 of those traits are true for the SVS towers. They're extremely detailed without being overly analytical, and the detail is there if you want it and not there if you don't want it. The bass response is transparent. It is like coming from a different area, and it is massive and it is huge, and it will grab you by the balls and take you wherever you want to go with it. But similar to the Aria, it's very well balanced. And that third factor of the Aria being warmer than what would consider to be neutral, or what my consideration of what neutral would be, this to me seems about neutral. It doesn't really seem too warm or too cold in any particular capacity, whether that's highs, mids, or lows. And it seems to have kind of the correct amount of just about everything. And so far, that's been my first impressions of sound. It's not perfect, just like everything else. You know, there are some minor flaws here and there that I will be more extensively going in the full-size review, as well as a more comprehensive breakdown of the sound. But as far as first impressions go, I have been ecstatic with this speaker. This has been a fantastic speaker. And you know, everything, which I haven't really even talked about the build quality, but everything from the build quality to the sound design just so far just been on another level. So that's been great to see. So subscribe if you're interested in that review. And until the next video, my name is Josh, signing off.